Welcome to the English Worship Jokja podcast. I'm Pastor Jamie Kemp, and I'm excited that you're joining us for this week's message. English Worship is a charismatic, Christ-centered community. We want to empower you to pursue your God-given purpose in God's global plan. To find the most updated information about English Worship Jokja and how you can get connected, follow us on Instagram at EWJokja. Thanks for listening. Welcome to English Worship. I'm Pastor Jamie, and I'm excited that you're joining us on site and online. So this is our last week of the Chase the Lion series. Everybody go, rawr. So this is our last week of Chase the Lion, and I have this might have been my favorite one of my favorite sermon series that we've done at English Worship. You can go back and listen to the podcasts or watch them on YouTube to kind of catch up on all these things, this idea of being a lion chaser, going after those God-given dreams that He's put inside your heart. And so I've heard incredible stories and testimonies from so many of you over this last month. So keep them coming. DM me on Instagram or stop me or WhatsApp me and let me know what God is stirring in your heart, what God is doing in your heart. I love to hear back from you guys. And so this is our last week of Chase the Lion, but don't worry, we're still going to have English worship next week. All right, so next week we're starting a new series, and I'm excited because Elia is going to be preaching next Sunday. I looked on the calendar, and it's been almost 2 years since she's preached here, all right? Because she was in America for a while, and now she's back with us, and so we're excited. So don't miss next week as we start a new theme, a new series. One more announcement is I want to let you know that I'm going to be gone the next 5 Sundays. Don't cheer, all right? Don't be like, yes, he's leaving, all right? So that would have been horrible, right? So I'm going to be gone every June. I have to go to America to help train new global workers. I have some meetings in America. So every June, this kind of happens. I go back for some training, but don't worry, we'll be back at the beginning of July. We'll miss you, and we'll pray for you almost every day. Well, today I want to tell you a story about a conversation, an encounter I had with my pastor before I moved to Indonesia. All right, so I want to tell you guys a story. Before Tasha and I moved here, we sat down with our pastor and we asked him for his blessing. Okay, we had been youth pastors at his church for 7 years, and he always knew that we felt called to be missionaries, he always knew that someday we were going to move overseas and do and lead ministry outside of America. He always knew that, and he totally supported us. So in 2006, I don't think some of you were even born yet, all right? But in 2006, we felt like, Tasha and I felt like it's time. It's time for us to take the step of faith and chase the lion and move to Indonesia to step into the next thing God has for us. So I schedule a meeting with my pastor, and I sit down with him. And remember, he's known me for years now, and he's always known this was the call of God in our life. So I sit down with my pastor. I say, Pastor, I think it's time for us to step into the next season of our life. And to my great surprise, my pastor said, no. What? Can he do that? Can he say no to God? How can he do that? I'm a child of God, right? I've got the call of God on my life. I'm an ordained minister with the GSJA, Assemblies of God. How can this man say no to God, right? And so I remember just being surprised by this, because you see, when it comes to spiritual authority, I'm great. I believe in spiritual authority when I have the authority, right? But when other people have the authority, I'm more like, oh, let's see about this. But my pastor says to me, he says, Jamie, can you wait a year? You see, at my church in America, our children's pastor had just left the church 3 months ago. And he was afraid that to lose the children's pastor and the youth pastor within 1 year, man, it would be unhealthy for the church. It wouldn't be good for the church. So he said, Jamie, would you be willing to give 1 more year to the church, to give 1 more year to the youth ministry, to give 1 more year to me before you move to Indonesia? Well, do you know what we did? Tosh and I agreed. We said, yes, we'll give it another year. We committed another year to the youth ministry, the church, and to our pastor. And do you know what happened? That year, that last year that we were in America, was one of the most fruitful seasons of ministry we've ever had. I mean, we had more teens in our ministry than we ever had. We had more adult volunteers. We had more student leaders than we'd ever had. It was almost like the hand of God's blessing was on us because we honored our leadership, because we honored those who were in leadership above us. Well, 1 year later, I sit down with my pastor and I'm like, okay, Pastor, it's been a year. Can we have your blessing now? Can we step into the next season of our life? And I'll never forget my pastor's reaction. I remember he hit the table. He was like, you remembered. All right. And but it was great because at that moment, he was able to lay his hands on us and bless us and pray for us and send us out with his blessing. All right. And here's what I want us to see today. Here's what happens when you live under authority. Living under authority brings protection and blessing. And living under spiritual authority brings spiritual protection and spiritual blessing. Okay, and so that's what I want us to lock into, what I want us to talk about today, that living under spiritual authority brings spiritual protection and spiritual blessing. Hebrews 13 says it this way: obey your spiritual leaders and do what they say. Their work is to watch over your souls, and they are accountable to God. So there's something about spiritual authority. There's something about having leaders in our life that have spiritual authority on us over our lives. Now, let me call a timeout real quick and say, I realize this topic might trigger some of you, because I realize that some of us may have had bad experiences with spiritual leaders. Maybe you've been in an unhealthy church, or you had an unhealthy relationship with a mentor or a pastor that was abusive or controlling or manipulating in some sort of way. And so I get that today. When we talk about authority, some of us are coming in with some hurts and some wounds, with a background that is not excited to hear about this topic. And so before we go any further, let me just say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if someone in leadership has hurt you in the past. I'm sorry that if you've walked in here today feeling like, man, I've been wounded or manipulated or something happened that man, it makes it difficult for you to trust leadership. I want to say, man, I'm sorry that you had to walk through that. I'm sorry that you experienced that. And so my prayer is this. My prayer is that here at English Worship, you find the hope and the healing you need to trust in leadership again. I'm hoping that, this is what I want to put, my prayer is that English Worship can be a place where you move past your past and find your future. All right, that is my prayer for anybody who's coming in with an open heart, but especially for those who've come in with a wounded or broken heart when it comes to authority, that you'd be able to move past your past and find your future. I don't want any of you to be held back by your past. Instead, I want you to be freed up to to step into the call of God on your life. That is my prayer, and that is my heart. So I want to introduce you to the last of David's mighty men in 2 Samuel 23. All month, we've been talking about this one chapter, looking at David's mighty men. And today we're going to talk about Abishai. Everybody say Abishai. Abishai is our last leader, our last mighty man that we're going to look at, and he is someone who understood living under authority. He's the last of our lion chasers. I mean, we've already talked about Benaiah, right? Benaiah who ran towards the roar, right? Not my son Benaiah, but Benaiah from the scriptures. Benaiah who ran towards the roar. We talked about Josheb who defied the odds. Eleazar who kept fighting. And last week we talked about Shammah who stood firm. And these are known as David's mighty men. These are like his inner circle, his special forces, his pahlawan, as the Tebe puts it, right? So now get this, all these mighty men, Benaiah, Josheb, Eleazar, and then Shammah, not Dan Shammah. These are mighty men. They all took their orders from Abishai. It says that he was the leader of the leaders. And there's something that we can learn from this today. 2 Samuel 23, verse 18 says this: Abishai, son of Zeruiah, the brother of Joab, was the leader of the 30. He once used his spear to kill 300 enemy warriors in a single battle. It was by such feats that he became as famous as the 3. Abishai was the most famous of the 30 and was their commander, though he was not one of the 3. Now, we don't know much about Abishai, but we know that he was chief of the 3 and commander of the 30. So he had a position of leader. He was a leader of leaders. He had great responsibility and great authority, yet he lived under the authority of David. Here's something that I noticed. Lion chasers know how to live with authority and under authority, right? Lion chase, man, if we want to succeed, if we want to step into God's best for our life, man, we need to know how to live with authority when God gives us authority, but also how to live under authority. It kind of reminds me of that story in the scriptures. Remember in Matthew chapter 8 when this Roman officer, he comes to Jesus because he's got this sick servant, right? One of his servants is sick and needs Jesus to heal his servant. And so he comes to Jesus and he says, Jesus, I need you to come and heal my servant. And Jesus says, okay, I'll come to your house. You remember how the Roman officer responds? He says, hey, you don't need to come to my house. He goes, I understand authority because I'm a person who is I obey my superior officers, but then I also have people underneath me. And so when I say go, they go. And when I say come, they come. So all you have to do, Jesus, is speak the word and my servant will be healed. Do you remember that? Do you remember how Jesus responds? He said, the Bible literally says, Jesus was amazed. It was amazing. And he said, I have never seen faith like this in all of Israel. Go home, your servant is healed. And the scriptures say at that very moment, that servant was healed. I mean, that's the kind of authority. That's what it means to understand authority, that I understand what it means to have authority, but also to live under authority. That's what it kind of reminds me of. So if you're going to pursue God's given dreams, you're going to pursue God's purposes for your life, there will be times when you need to seek the counsel of leadership and mentors and submit those plans and invite leadership to journey with you, to invite those in leadership to be a part of your journey. Now, a side note. Now, I know a lot of you this past month, I've been talking about dreaming big. I've been talking about stepping into the call of God. And I've talked to several of you who are like, man, Pastor Jamie, I want to step into my dream, but I don't really have one. Or, you're like, my dream is just to graduate, right? Or my dream is just to get married. So I get that, okay? So, because I was talking to Tasha this week, and she kind of helped me put things in perspective. Because she goes, Jamie, she goes, you know what my dream is? She goes, she goes, you know what the lion that I want to chase? And I was like, what? Yeah, Tasha, I want to know, what's your big dream? She goes, my dream is your dream. I was like, what? She's like, yeah. She goes, I feel called to help you chase your lions. And I thought, you know what? I realize in this room, some of you might almost be frustrated with me or frustrated with God. Saying, man, I want a dream. I want a big dream, but I don't see it. And so my encouragement to you today is this. Man, if you don't have a lion to chase, find somebody who is chasing a lion and support them, all right? Find somebody who has a vision. Find a job that you agree with. You're like, man, that's the kind of job I want to have. Find a friend, that friendship or that core group that says, or that ministry that says, man, I want to pursue, I want to be a part of that. Maybe you're not going to be the dreamer. Maybe you're the one who comes alongside and helps step into that dream and helps others succeed in chasing those lions. Godly leaders give a vision worth living for and a dream worth dying for. I think that's what it means to have godly leaders in our life. That a good pastor, a good spiritual leader will give a vision that you can say, man, I want to be a part of that. It gives you something to live for and a dream worth dying for, something to give your life towards. So when you think of a good pastor, when you think of a good ministry, or even I'd say a good job or career, and that's the place you want to be, right? You say, man, I want to step into that. I want to be a part of that. I'd be so sad if some of you guys came to church today and were like, I got to go to church. I just have to go, right? I don't want anybody to come to English worship because of religious obligation, because you'd feel guilty if you missed. Man, as a leadership team, man, we want you to come to church because we want you to say, man, I'm a part of something bigger. Man, I want to grow in the Lord. I want to be a part of community. I want to be at a place that helps me step in to God's purposes for my life. So let me be clear. What is spiritual authority? Spiritual authority is the divine order by which God governs and blesses his people. All right? Spiritual authority is the divine order by which God governs and blesses his people. All right, so that's what it means to have spiritual leaders in our life. It gives order, it gives direction, it helps keep things from getting out of control or chaotic in our life, but even in the church and in the body of Christ. And that's why God has positioned different people in positions of leadership. It involves submitting first to God and secondly, to the leaders he places in our lives. I mean, look at how 1 Peter puts it. It says this, submit yourselves for the Lord's sake to every human authority, whether to the emperor, the supreme authority, or to governors who are sent to him to punish those who do wrong and commend those who do right. For it is God's will that by doing good you should silence the ignorant talk of foolish people. Live as free people. Do not use your freedom as cover up for evil. Live as God's slaves. Show proper respect to everyone. Love the family of believers. Fear God. Honor the emperor. So let me take a few moments. I just want to give you 3 types of spiritual leadership. Or I want to say, I should have put this, I changed it in my notes, 3 expressions of spiritual leadership, all right? 2 bad, 1 good, all right? 2 bad, 1 good, all right? 3 different types of spiritual leadership that I've noticed as I've kind of grown up in church and seen different things. The first one is this, the demands of the dependents. So the first expression of spiritual leadership or spiritual authority is the demands of the dependent. Now, this is the most common spiritual abuse that I see. Now, let me explain. This kind of leadership that we see in the church or in spiritual contexts, it demands blind obedience. Do you know what I mean by blind obedience? Blind obedience means that you're expected to obey without questioning authority, without ever thinking, is this good or bad? Should I do it or not? Actually, in this context, the demands of the dependent means that if you question leadership, it's an act of rebellion, right? And you need to repent of it right away. Like if you question leadership, man, you're on the outs now. You're no longer on the inside. And this is spiritual abuse disguised as spiritual authority. Does that make sense to you guys? That when someone's demanding your loyalty and your faithfulness, and if you dare question it, if you dare step out of line, man, you are now going to be punished or even excommunicated from that community. So this is actually what I would say spiritual abuse disguised as spiritual authority. Man, I've seen leaders demand their disciples to submit every life decision for their approval or disapproval. Who to date, when to marry, what to study, what career should they pursue, where to live. The demanding leader requires all these life decisions to be submitted to him or her so that they can pray about it and decide, do I have a peace from God or a check in my spirit about it? And so the disciple, the church member, is never really empowered to grow in maturity. To learn how to discern the voice of God and God's direction for their life. They're always kept at this immature level because they're always dependent on the demands of the leader. So although we recognize godly leadership in our life, it doesn't mean you give up your responsibilities over your own life and decisions. Living under authority to a leader does not mean you give up your responsibility over your own decisions. Just let that sit there for a moment. Because some of us have grown up in contexts or in cultures where we've been burned by unhealthy leadership, the demands of the dependent. Living under authority to a leader does not mean you give up the responsibility of making your own decisions. I love how James 4 puts it. It says this, so then, submit yourselves to God. That is our first priority, is to submit ourselves to the lordship of Jesus. Because here's the deal, guys. Someday, you're going to stand before the judgment seat of Christ. You're going to stand before God and give an account of your life. Guess what? I'm not going to be standing next to you. You can't be like, well, Pastor Jamie said, I'm not going to be there with you, all right? Your core group leaders, they're going to be maybe standing off to the side, right, and cheering you on, but you're going to be standing before God. You know what? Even your parents aren't going to stand with you. It's going to be you standing before the Lord and giving an account of the decisions you made and the life that you live. So here's what I want you to know. Living under authority does not mean you give up your responsibility of your decisions. That's not living under spiritual authority. That's living under spiritual abuse. And I don't want that for any of you. So we have the demands of the dependent, but a second way I've seen leadership or spiritual authority expressed here is what I want to call the inaction of the independent. It's almost like a reaction to the first one. So you have this one mindset that I'm just going to submit to my leadership, and whatever they say, I'm just going to do, all right? So you've got this one kind of submission, but then in reaction to that, you'll have the inaction of the independent. That's the person that says, I don't need leadership in my life. I don't need a pastor. I don't need a mentor. I don't need somebody to tell me what to do. I'm going to live on my own and hear from God myself. And sometimes it's in reaction because some people have grown up in churches or in contexts where it was so controlling, so that now you're at an age where you're like, you know what? I don't want any leadership in my life. I don't want anybody telling me what to do. And so the pendulum swings all the way from control to absolute freedom, to saying, I don't want anybody, from dependent to totally independent. And this kind of individualism does not reflect a biblical example. Ephesians puts it this way: submit yourselves one to another out of reverence for Christ. So there is this biblical perspective of, I have freedom in Christ, and I'm a child of God, and I can discern and hear the voice. But I learn, as I mature, I actually learn how to submit myself to others out of reverence for Christ. Sadly, this independence, this idea that I don't need leadership in my life, this is usually a reaction because of a past pain or hurt that you might have in your life. So here's what we're looking for. Here's what we're striving for at English Worship, and what I want to see in your life is we want a biblical perspective on authority. So I'm going to call this serving the submitted. This is the third one. This is the good one. All right, if you're wondering, where's the good one? All right, this is the good one. Serving that's the perspective. That's the attitude the expression of spiritual authority we want to see in our lives. Jesus teaches us that leadership and spiritual authority exists to serve the submitted. Leadership in our life actually exists to help us succeed, to help us grow into the call of God on our life. Listen to the way Jesus says it. He says this. So Jesus called them together again and said, "You know that the rulers of this world lord it over their people, and officials flaunt their authority over those under them." Verse 43, "But among you it will be different." And Jesus gives us a totally different perspective on leadership. He says, man, outside the church, outside the faith, man, leaders, they use their authority to rule over people and tell them what to do. But with you, it's going to be different. Whoever wants to be a leader among you must be your servant. And whoever wants to be first among you must be the slave to everyone else. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others and give his life as a ransom for many. So what we're looking for in spiritual leadership, what we're looking for in spiritual authority is someone who actually serves us to become the people of God he's created us to be, who will lay down their life so that we can succeed. That's the kind of spiritual authority that we are looking for. Jesus steps on the scene and flips leadership totally upside down. He says, if you want to be great, you got to serve. If you want to be first, then you got to be a slave to everybody. And that's the kind of authority, spiritual authority that we're looking for in our lives. All right, I got to skip this next part. Lion chasers know what it means to live under spiritual authority. Keyboards, you guys can come help me close. So just have the keys come up if you're ready. So about 3 years ago, I was working on my computer and I kept getting these headaches, right? And I'd be looking at my computer screen or reading a book and I'd have to squint really hard to see my computer, or I'd have to zoom in on my phone to read a text message. And I started to realize, oh no, I think I need glasses, all right? And I couldn't believe I'd had perfect vision, and so all of a sudden I realized, man, I'm getting these headaches because I'm always squinting to have to read a book or to see my computer screen, and so I had to go to the eye doctor and get the eye test. You know how they do that, like which is better, this one or this one, this one or this one? All right, so I go there, and of course they say, hey, you need glasses, and I say, well, why are my eyes getting bad? Is there like a medical reason why? I had great vision and now and he goes, well, the medical reason is you're getting old. All right, so I was like, is that like in the books or something like that? Like is that an actual diagnosis? Can you say that to me? Like, all right, so it wasn't because my eyes were going, it was just, he's like, yeah, it just happens when you get old, all right? So now you'll see me. So if you ever see me squinting on my iPad, like when I'm trying to read this sermon, it's because I can't see, all right? So I got like font 20 size, right? So it's like huge font, right? So now I've become an old man and I need reading glasses, all right? So if you ever see me working in the office or at a coffee shop, I'll have glasses on and just, I don't like them, but I got to do, that's got to be able to see. So my reading glasses, they help me to see things more clearly, all right? Like when I try to read or work or even look at my phone, so I'm like so old, guys. Like I hate it because I have to like hold my phone, like if I'm reading and I'm like, I have to read, like, you ever see your parents do that? Like, I do that now. I'm my parents. I'm your parents. Oh, no. I have to fold my phone, like, way out here to read a text message. Oh, man, it's so embarrassing. But my glasses, when I put them on, I can see clearly, right? I can read the text message. I can read my Bible. I can read my computer without, my glasses help me to, my glasses, they give me the lenses to see clearly. So what I want to do today, how I want to end, is I want to give you some lenses to see spiritual authority more clearly. Because I want to empower you to understand how to understand spiritual authority. I gave you 2 bad examples that I've seen, but I also try to give you the expression that we're looking for here at English Worship, a leadership that serves you to help you succeed. So as you mature in Christ, here are just some lenses, some expressions that I want to give you to help you understand what healthy leadership looks like, so you can see that clearly. But also, so if you see unhealthy leadership, you recognize that also. I don't want to be a part of that. I'm looking for healthy leadership. So 3 lenses to understand living under authority. Number 1, freeing or controlling. Freeing or controlling. Healthy leadership, healthy spiritual authority frees you up to grow into the person God has created you to be. Frees you up, empowers you to step into it. Unhealthy spiritual authority wants to control you, keep you where you're at, make your decisions for you. You have to submit everything to them. But healthy leadership frees you up to say, man, how can I serve you to help you become who God's created you to be? A second lens is this: your best interest or their best interest. Your best interest or their best interest. Healthy leadership is wanting to see you succeed. They have your best interest in mind. They're not saying, oh, you need to protect the organization, you need to protect the movement here. They're not looking to be self-serving. They're looking to be others-serving, selfless serving, to serve others, to see you, the best of God, happen in your life. And you know what? A good leader will call you out if you have sin in your life, right? That's not controlling, because there's some, man, I have your best interest, so that habit you have in your life, that's a bad habit. We need to get rid of that, right? That's not controlling. That's not trying to control you or have their best. No, they're saying, man, I care enough about you to say, man, we got to get this thing out. They have your best interest in mind, not their best interest in mind. A third lens is this: produce or preserve. Produce. A good leader, godly authority, wants to produce good fruit in your life, to see you grow into this. Unhealthy leadership, unhealthy authority wants to preserve. Just stay here. Stay in this small group. Oh, but I kind of want to try this new ministry out. No, you need to be in this small group, right? You need to stay here under my authority. Whereas a godly leader would say, no, that's great. I want to empower you to step into that. You know what? You've been in my core group. You know what? Now it's time for you to step up and become a core group leader. Man, you've been a part of Young Pro. Now it's time for you to step into leadership in Young Pro. That's what godly leadership does. It wants to produce fruit in your life. Just about every month, we have the best, worst thing that happens at English Worship. It's the best thing because every month, and I think we're doing it today, someone from English Worship graduates and moves to a new city or a new country. And it's the best because, man, we love seeing you step into the God's call. But it's the worst because we're like, no, you have to leave. So it's like so sad, but it's glad. It's sad, but glad, right? But I think that's the tension, or that's a good thing. That's what you want in your leadership, to be able to say, man, we're sad to see you go, but man, we're excited for what God's got in your future. And that's, young people, if I could share, if you can grab a hold of that and understand this lens to see leadership, it's going to protect you and those of you who've been hurt in the past by bad leadership. Man, if you can now move past that and step into the future, say, now I understand what godly, good leadership looks like in my life. Not somebody who's going to hold me back, but someone who's going to push me forward into the call of God on my life. That's why I love to call English Worship a river, not a lake. right? That we understand that some of you, you're just going to be here for a short time. You're going to travel down the river with us. And then at some point, you're going to head out to another career, another school, another job. So although we're sad to see you go, man, we bless you as you go. I hope you enjoyed today's sermon. Feel free to contact us with any questions through our Instagram @EWJokcha. Feel free to share this podcast with others. Until next time, may God bless you and keep you.